Welcome back. I have talked about my past struggles with my hormones, as well as my experience with hormone replacement therapy in previous videos. However, lately I have been talking to so many women who are currently struggling with their hormones and/or their health, and they're not being helped. Their doctors are telling them it is normal to feel this way, to tough it out. If they are lucky enough to find a doctor willing to listen, they're still not being helped. So I wanted to talk about my experience one more time, hoping it will be helpful as well as encouraging. Now, keep in mind, I am not a doctor. I do have an excellent video on hormones with my doctor on this channel. If you have not seen it, I will link it down below. Also, I acknowledge that not every woman is struggling as she's going through menopause, and that hormone replacement therapy is not an option for everyone. But even if you're one of the lucky ones not struggling, or if hormone replacement therapy is something you would never consider, I think this video might still be helpful for you. But before I get started, I want to apologize about the sound. I know it is quite echoey. As most of you know, we just moved into this apartment, so it is not fully furnished, and this room is not quite what I would like it to be. So I know the sound is not the greatest. However, I have been so fired up lately because just in the last week, I have talked to 3 women who are struggling right now and aren't being helped. So I wanted to make this video for you, even though the sound is not perfect. So please bear with me. So this is a bit of a long story. I even made some notes just to make sure I won't forget anything. But as I mentioned, I am really hoping sharing my experience will be helpful to you. And if you're currently struggling with your hormones and/or your health, that this will give you some hope. So my struggles with my hormones started very early on because of my history with anorexia. I was a late bloomer. I didn't get a period until I was almost 17. And shortly after that, my mother put me on the birth control pill. So I had a couple periods while on the pill, then I became anorexic. And very quickly, my periods stopped. Now, while there was no risk of me getting pregnant, my gynecologist at the time strongly advised I stay on the pill to protect my heart and my bones, which in hindsight was not bad advice. So I stayed on the pill until age 26. At age 26, I went off the pill for 1 year. In that whole year, I did not get a period. My gynecologist tried to induce a period, but it just didn't happen. So just to be on the safe side, she took a bone density test, and it revealed that at age 26, my bones were already getting brittle from the lack of estrogen, which the pill had given me. So once more, she highly advised I go back on the pill to, once more, protect my bones and my heart, which I did. I went back on the pill until age 37. At age 37, I started taking a closer look at what I had done to myself. I had been anorexic that whole time. So at 37, I really wanted to get healthy. And one of the things I did, aside from starting to eat, was to see a naturopath. This naturopath was shocked that I had been on the pill for 20 years. She told me it was horrible for me, horrible for my liver. I had to get off it, do a liver cleanse, take all kinds of supplements. Finally, wanting to be good to myself, I went along with everything she said. So I went off the pill, I did the liver cleanse, which basically meant fasting for 5 days, easy for an ex-anorexic, and I took all kinds of supplements, hoping, of course, after all of that, I would feel fabulous. Now, mind you, I had been anorexic for almost 2 decades, so I hadn't felt that good for the last 20 years. But very quickly, once I got off the pill, did the liver cleanse and all the things this naturopath suggested I do, I started feeling horrible. The first thing that happened is that I just could not sleep anymore. I would go to bed at night exhausted because at that point I was still over exercising, and I would just lay there for hours and hours and hours. I have never been the greatest sleeper, especially when I was anorexic. I didn't sleep too well, but I had never experienced insomnia like that before. Then the next thing that happened is I started having hot flashes, not knowing they were hot flashes. Suddenly I would just get so hot and sweaty, again, not knowing why. Then my hair started falling out a lot, especially in the front. I started getting really achy. My bones, my joints, everything ached. My skin was getting extremely dry. But the worst part was I was getting depressed. I am normally a very positive, very happy person, excited about life. But suddenly all I wanted to do was sit on the couch and stare at the wall. I very quickly didn't recognize myself. So of course I went back to the naturopath several times, and she told me it was normal. My body just needed to adjust from having been on the pill for so long. Pretty soon I would feel great. Well, that didn't happen. I went along for about a month or so. I can't quite remember the time frame. But when I just was so exhausted from not sleeping, I went and saw my family practitioner, who gave me some sleeping pills. They worked great for a couple of nights, then they stopped working. So I went back to see him. He gave me some others. Again, they worked great for a couple of nights, then they didn't. So very quickly, I was on 5 different sleep meds, which I circled around just to make sure my body wouldn't get used to one of them. And even doing that, there were nights where I just could not sleep. I remember I had had a bronchitis a couple of years earlier, and in my bathroom cupboard I had a bottle of cough syrup with some codeine in it. I would just chug that some nights just to go to sleep. So I was miserable. I would just drag myself through my day, exhausted from not having any sleep. I would do my job to the best of my ability and would be so happy to go back to bed at night, but also afraid to go back to bed, knowing that most likely I would not be able to sleep. So I was miserable. So eventually, as I said, I can't quite remember the time frame because it is quite a long time ago, but eventually I finally went to see my gynecologist. My gynecologist told me that at age 37, I was way too young to be in menopause, and that probably because I had been on the pill for so long, again, my body just needed some time to adjust and everything would fall into place. She gave me some other supplements, which did nothing. Eventually, she gave me some hormones. She gave me some bioidentical hormone pellets, which I put under my tongue. Very hopeful. They did nothing. I went back to see her. She increased the dose. Nothing. So after seeing her for a couple of months, I just sort of thought, this is me now. And one day a client came to see me and she saw how miserable I was. She said, I have this incredible doctor. She has done wonders for me. Of course, right away I called this doctor. She was very busy. She had a waiting list. But eventually, after several weeks, I was able to see her. She was very expensive. My insurance didn't pay anything, but I didn't care. At that point, I was so desperate. I would have sold a kidney just to feel better, get some sleep, and not be depressed. At that point, I had cut my hair off because it was fallen out so much. I thought I was going to be bald. So I saw this woman and she took a blood test. Mind you, this was the first doctor, after seeing the naturopath, my family practitioner, and my gynecologist, who actually took a blood test. So my blood test showed that my estrogen was very low. In fact, all my hormones, including my thyroid hormones, were really low. So she said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you on some bioidentical hormones in capsule form. We're going to give you some thyroid hormones as well as all kinds of other supplements. So she sent me home with a bag full of goodies, which I was so hopeful about taking. I took my bioidentical hormones morning and night. I took all the other supplements she gave me. I took my thyroid hormones. Nothing. After a month, I went back to see her. She took another blood test. Nothing had changed. My estrogen, all my hormones were still very, very low. In fact, they hadn't even changed at all. So she increased my bioidentical hormones, my thyroid hormones. She gave me some more supplements, sent me home again. Once more, I was very hopeful. Once more, nothing happened. Not one of my symptoms went away. I was still not sleeping, having hot flashes. Again, I had cut off my hair, but it was still coming out in bundles. I was achy, I was depressed, I was miserable. So I went to see her about every month. Every month she took another blood test, and every time it showed that nothing had happened. She kept increasing my dosage of bioidentical hormones until she finally told me, I can't increase these anymore. You are taking enough for a horse. I think there's something wrong with you, is what she told me. But just to be on the safe side, she wanted me to have a CAT scan because she thought that I might have a brain tumor pressing on my pituitary gland, messing with my endocrine system. So I had a CAT scan, which luckily was clear. When I came back with the results, she once more told me, I think it's you. I think there's something wrong with you because what I'm doing with you is working beautifully for everybody else. So it has to be you. But again, just in case, she wanted me to have another CAT scan. So this time she sent me all the way to Los Angeles to have a CAT scan. Again, luckily the CAT scan was clear. And when I came back with the results, she said, well, let's try something different. Let's try some human growth hormone on top of everything else. Why not? So now I was taking all the bioidentical hormones she had prescribed at the highest dose she was comfortable prescribing, all the other supplements, my sleep meds, and now I was injecting myself on a daily basis with human growth hormone, which, mind you, cost $400 alone on top of all the other stuff. But like I said, I was so desperate, I did not care. I would have happily sold a kidney if somebody told me, if you do that, you will feel good again. So the human growth hormone helped a little bit with my energy, but it didn't alleviate any of my symptoms. I was still not sleeping. Again, my hair was falling out. I was achy. I was depressed. Life was honestly not fun living. So when I went back to see her again, she suggested antidepressants. Now, I have absolutely nothing against antidepressants. I think there is a place for them. But I knew at that time that what I was going through, yes, I was depressed, but it was a situational depression. And if I would fix what caused it, if I would fix my hormones, that the depression would go away. So I declined. So then she suggested to see a homeopath, which I did. And I actually really liked the man. I liked the conversation we had. He listened to me. He really wanted to help. And he sent me away with a remedy. Now, homeopathy, if you believe in homeopathy, it's a bit controversial, but if you believe in homeopathy, it is quite fragile. So the remedy this man gave me actually helped a little bit with my sleep. It wasn't by any means a wonder drug, but it helped a little bit just calm me down at night. But because homeopathy is so fragile, things in your environment can really affect it. It just kept not working, or it could have just all been in my head. So the homeopathy, though it helped a tiny bit, up to that point, I think it was really what had helped me the most, was too fragile and it was not a consistent solution. So I went back once more to see this doctor. Why at this point I kept going back, I honestly can't tell you. I think I was hopeless and I thought that I was out of options. This doctor had not just helped this one client who had recommended her, but in the time I was seeing her, which was about 9 months, other clients of mine actually came and raved about her and told me how much she had helped them. So I think I was starting to believe that maybe it is me and she is kind of my only option. So I went back to see her again, and this time she suggested to do some Ayurvedic medicine. Now I think Ayurvedic medicine is fabulous, but honestly at that point I was way past panchakarma, Ayurvedic massages and oil drips. But again, I was so desperate, I went. And on that point, owing a bit more on my credit card didn't really make a difference. So I had weekly Ayurvedic massages, which were really enjoyable. I had oil drips. I did panchakarma, which if you're not familiar with panchakarma, it basically involves eating certain things and giving yourself oil enemas. I did all of that and I started feeling even worse, not thinking that would even be possible. So I went back to see my other doctor and she said to me, "Of course you're feeling worse. Your dosha is completely unbalanced," though she had sent me to this Ayurvedic practitioner. At that point, I just said, "Listen, I can't do this anymore. I am paying you so much money. You're not helping me. I want to go see someone else." She said to me, "Good luck. There is something wrong with you and you will not find anybody else that can help you." Of course, I left her office devastated and hopeless. I really didn't know where else to go. But I remembered the doctor in Los Angeles who did my CAT scan. I remembered really liking him. So I thought I'm going to reach out to him and maybe he can help me. I sent him all my blood tests and he said, "Yeah, you have low estrogen, easy fix. Let's give you an estrogen gel." So he prescribed me an estrogen gel. I smeared it all over myself, very hopeful. Again, nothing. None of my symptoms went away or even improved. So at that point, I really thought, this is just me now. And honestly, I don't want to say I was suicidal because I wasn't. But I definitely had those thoughts where I thought, if it was all over now, I would be okay with it. I thought life is just too exhausting and too depressing like this because, like I said, I did not recognize myself. All the passion and interests I had before, I didn't care anymore. All I wanted was to sleep and just feel better. So at that point, I really didn't know what to do any longer, but I went and saw another gynecologist. This man also, very nice man, put me on an estrogen patch. Once more, I was incredibly hopeful. I walked out of his office with my estrogen patch on my belly, thinking that pretty soon I will feel better. Again, nothing. I went back several times. He increased the dosage. He increased it some more, till he too said, "I can't give you any more." And even at the highest dosage, none of my symptoms went away or even improved. So, needless to say, at that point, I thought, this is it. This is just how I'm going to be now. And I have to figure a way to just be okay with it. Luckily, another client of mine came to see me one day. She also saw how miserable I was. And she said, "I have this amazing doctor. He's in Santa Barbara, but he is amazing. He has done wonders for me." Now at that point, I thought, he's not going to be able to help me because I know at this point there is something wrong with me. But there was a tiny bit of hope inside of me, and I called him and I said, "Listen, I hear you're great, but honestly, I am too exhausted to even come and see you." So he was in Santa Barbara, I lived in Monterey. It's about a 6-hour drive. I said, "I can't imagine sitting in the car for 6 hours and seeing you." That's how exhausted I was. This man said to me, "Don't worry, I will come towards you." Now, hearing that, I cried. I cried, and I was also very skeptical. I thought, what doctor would care enough about a patient to sit in his car and drive 3 hours to see this patient? But regardless of how skeptical I was more desperate than skeptical. So I got in my car and met Dr. Mathis, who is the same doctor I talked about earlier, who I did the interview with on hormones. Dr. Mathis sat down with me, listened to me, then looked at all the blood work I had brought for him, which at that point was a file this thick. And he said to me, "No wonder you're feeling the way you do. Your hormones are really messed up." Hearing that, hearing him say that, I can see and hear that you are not feeling good, but it is not you. There's an explanation for it. It is right here in black and white. That tiny bit of hope I had really grew. So Dr. Mathis took me to a pharmacy and prescribed some bioidentical hormones for me, which honestly at that point I did not have much hope in, but of course I started using them. Within 1 month, all of my symptoms improved. Within a couple of months, all my symptoms disappeared. I was finally sleeping again. My hair stopped falling out. My hot flushes went away. I wasn't achy anymore. My skin wasn't dry anymore. But most importantly, I started to recognize myself again. I wasn't depressed any longer, and my passion for life returned. Now, the reason I'm telling you this long, drawn-out story is, as I mentioned earlier, I have been talking to so many women who are struggling and they are not being helped. Their doctors aren't listening. They're telling them it's normal for your age, tough it out, or whatever else BS. And it is making me so angry and also very sad, because I know exactly how these women are feeling. So if you're one of these women or men, please do not give up. If your doctor isn't listening, if your doctor is telling you to feel in a way you don't want to feel, go see somebody else. If this guy isn't helping you, go see somebody else. Now, I know it is easier said than done, especially in the United States, where healthcare is crazy expensive, and even here in Europe, insurances don't want to pay for certain things. But here's the thing, we have one body, one life as far as we know, and we have to be worth it to ourselves. Again, I know it is easier said than done. It took me years to pay off my credit cards, but it was the best investment I have ever made. So please, if you're struggling, do not give up until you find the help you deserve. And if you really cannot afford it, there are great online resources now. I will link some down below. I will also link Dr. Mathis's number and information down below. If you live in the United States, he will be able to help you. If you live outside the United States, he won't be able to treat you, but he will be happy to listen and hopefully be able to guide you in the right direction. But as I said, please do not give up. If you're struggling, doesn't matter with your hormones, another aspect of your health, do not give up until you find the help you deserve. So I hope this video was helpful. Another thing I want to mention is that I feel we women sort of struggle in silence. And one of you had reached out to me and said, "I'm so glad to hear you talk about this because I wanted to end my life and I thought I was the only one feeling that way." And again, it made me so sad that this woman felt that way, but I completely understood. When I was going through it, I felt so alone. And back then I was so young. My friends around me were having kids and I was going through menopause. But I have noticed that even women who are the same age don't like to talk about their struggles, and it makes us feel alone. So please don't suffer in silence. Talk to your girlfriends, sisters, mothers, talk to me about it. I will put my email down below. Please know you can always reach out, and know that you're not alone, whatever you're going through, and know that there's hope. So again, I hope this was helpful. Sorry it was such a long video. Any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I always love to hear from you. And as I said, do never hesitate to reach out. My email is down below. I won't be able to do much, but I will be able to listen to you. So thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye.